Being a genius sucks. No, I'm not a genius, and chances are you aren't either, but everyone's wanted to be a genius at some point in their lives. Turns out there are multiple potential downsides that might make you reconsider that position. Is it worth it to feel alienated from your home and school or job for the sake of art? Is it possible that creative genius can only come from misery or suffering? These are the questions posed by looking into the life and writings of Franz Kafka. He gives us valuable insight into the reasons why you don't want to be a genius. One morning, when Gregor Samsa woke from troubled dreams, he found himself transformed in his bed into a horrible vermin. He lay on his armor-like back, and if he lifted his little head, he could see his brown belly, slightly domed and divided by arches into stiff sections. The bedding was hardly able to cover it, and seemed ready to slide off at any moment. His many legs, pitifully thin compared with the size of the rest of him, waved about helplessly as he looked. What happened to me? He thought. Franz Kafka was a novelist and writer born in the late 1800s. He was born into a middle-class family. His father was a businessman. The only problem being that he was extremely abusive. He could be described as overbearing and overcritical of Franz, which made Franz afraid of his father. He had to endure this even during his adult life, constantly being belittled and criticized as nothing he could do seemed to be enough. Who he chose as a partner, not good enough. What he chose as a career, not good enough. His intelligence, not good enough. He writes about one time asking for water repeatedly. His father got so annoyed that he yanked him out of bed and locked him onto the cold balcony. Franz, while reflecting on these events in a letter, was still gracious towards his dad. Like many people who were abused by their parents, Kafka had very low self-esteem, which also flowed into his love life, not to mention his very complicated history with women. Kafka's relationship can be seen with positivity and negativity. Kafka was likely plagued by sexual desire and a need to get close to a woman, while at the same time lacking the skills necessary to harbor any real long-term relationship. While he did have multiple flings and women that he had some form of a relationship with, he would usually break it off. One of the first women he fell in love with was Felice Bauer. First time he saw her, he declared love for her. Of course, he didn't say this to her, but once she returned to her home country, Franz sent her letters declaring his love. They eventually got engaged, but unfortunately, they both agreed to split not long after the engagement. Kafka was likely a man torn by his inner need to connect to others, but due to his self-doubt and self-sabotaging, it seemed very hard for him to do this. He was very self-critical about himself and his work. He had determined that people didn't enjoy his company, and he was very doubtful of his own abilities. It's estimated that he destroyed around 90% of his writings. Right before Kafka died, he had asked his friend to burn the rest of his writings. Thankfully, his friend lied and didn't do this, and actually ended up publishing them. The pieces published by his friend after he died are some of the most renowned pieces of writing in history. Who knows how some of the other stuff he made may have turned out. Kafka's inner suffering is what led to his most favorite works. Let's take a look into his novella, Metamorphosis. Imagine one day you wake up in bed and you wake up as a cockroach. That's the foundation for Metamorphosis. A man working to support his family after some bad business exchanges is getting ready for another day at work. That is until he wakes up one day as a vermin. He can no longer work, he can no longer prepare food for himself, he can no longer speak or communicate with his family. The family tries to take care of him by bringing him rotten food and removing the things from his room so he has more space to crawl around, but they eventually stop doing this. The family slowly starts to resent the person-sized bug that used to take care of them, and the vermin doesn't blame them. Eventually, injured and neglected, the vermin dies. The family is somewhat sad, but they're relieved more than anything else. So, what does all this mean, and how does this tie into the idea that being a genius is terrible? The vermin can be interpreted as a euphemism for someone who struggles to perform in society, someone disabled, depressed, etc. The failure to provide value but to still take it is met with animosity. Once a family has to take care of the vermin, he's simply a burden. Who he was before that point doesn't matter. I've worked at a nursing home, and this experience rings true. As it was my first time working in healthcare, not much can prepare you to look at some of the people in those conditions. These people are kept away from mainstream society because you have to accommodate for them. There's no room for someone who can't walk and can barely hear, so you simply won't see them. In the Metamorphosis, the vermin hides under furniture whenever his family enters the room to feed him because they can't stand the sight of him. Here, the teenage feeling of invincibility is shattered. You're constantly reminded that one day, this could be you, or will be you if you get old enough. Either you'll grow old or get in an accident, or you'll be looked at with the same disdain and contempt just for existing. It doesn't just apply to physical disabilities either. People with mental disorders apply to this as well. A genius such as Franz Kafka was plagued by anxiety and depression for most of his life. Society was not made for him. The social isolation that allowed him to work on his writing and draw from unique experience tortured him for most of the time he was alive. Being disabled has no benefits, while being a genius certainly has some. But does it really? You could look at his accomplishments, such as being a renowned writer and existential philosopher, but does any of that matter if he wasn't happy? Many intelligent people are plagued by questions that can't be answered regarding death, the universe, or life itself. For Kafka, the absurdism he saw within day-to-day life likely haunted him and robbed him of any satisfaction that he could gain from his writing. For a normal person, they could look back at their accomplishments and be happy. But for a troubled mind such as this, holes can and will always be poked through your own work. You'll be seen as crazy for constantly doubting yourself, and the things you put so much work into to be good at may be seen as a waste because you're not actually sure if you're good at those things. The social isolation and hyper-focus that gives you the time and dedication to be considered a genius will turn on you, as you will slowly realize that you may die alone. In a twisted turn of fate, you realize that you need human connection, yet your mind rejects it. Your life is absurd. People will praise you for being above the exception, yet you will suffer from the fact that you're so special. So I ask you again, do you really want to be a genius? Thanks for watching. While you may not want to be a genius now, you may want to get better grades. So check out this video on how to do that.